Good. Hello, welcome to On the Edge, a place to learn and discuss the current trends and topics in the learning and development arena. With me here is Carol Enneking, founder of Lead, Learn, and Legacy. Welcome, Carol. Thanks so much for being here. I'm really looking forward to this discussion.
Brianne, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So start me off with your company, Lead, Learn, Legacy. Tell me about either the history or the purpose, or even about what a great name of your company is.
Thank you. I actually just started it in the last year. I did have another company for about 18 years before I went back into a corporate role. And so I wanted to go back to my roots in consulting and being an entrepreneur, but I also wanted to try to look at what I'd learned in the 30 plus years that I've been out here in the trenches working with over 150 different companies. And so a lot of people would probably put the word learn first, but I put the word lead first. I like to think that any of us can be leaders and we can lead from where we are and take personal accountability and leadership. And I think it's when you show up as a leader, how you learn to be better, to work with different kinds of people, to seek different perspectives. I think it's what you learn after you start leading that really counts. And ultimately, it's your legacy that you're leaving. It's your autograph. I like to say, how are you showing up? And so how you show up is really the legacy that you'll leave behind when you pass on from that job, when you move to something else or you retire and you say, what is the sum total of all the work that I did? You want to be thinking about that legacy that you're leaving. So I'm really big on how you show up and how you learn along the way so that you're leaving the legacy that you intend to and making a difference out there.
Yeah.
So
Legacy is the word. Yeah, and a legacy is a word that really jumped out for me because very similar, what we do together is that so many times we're speaking to a leader and, they talk about someday when I retire, I'm going to make a difference, right? Someday I'm going to, join a mission trip. I'm going to join a special board of directors. I'm going to do something purposeful. And I always kind of chuckle to myself about that as saying, that's not someday. You could be making the difference right now with the people that you lead, because you never know that ripple effect you have with other people. That's really the true legacy. So I love the name of your organization. I also love how intentional and purposeful you've always been around leadership and development. So I know that you're writing a book. So I'm really curious about where that's going, and tell me more about not only, where the motivation, the inspiration came from, but tell me what you're learning along the way.
Well, I'll try to keep this somewhat brief. There's quite a story. It goes back about 15 years. I was working with a speaker coach. I was doing some public speaking, and I was just telling her about some of the things I'd been through in my life, both as a working woman, as a mother, and a lot of different roles that I was playing, because we all know we juggle a lot of different roles out there. And this woman told me that she thought I had a book in me somewhere. And I sort of put it on the back burner, and it was one of my someday I'll types of ideas. And I just thought, well, someday I'll write a book. And the someday became 2023. I had an opportunity to take some time and really focus on what I want to do next and what kind of legacy I want to leave. And so the book idea was born from the experiences I've seen working with a lot of different working women and being one myself. It's a path that I've traveled and I've sort of forged my own way. I don't think I have had a path that was traditional. I didn't just stay with one company. I didn't do the same type of work over these years. And along the way, I found new and different ways to juggle all those roles and try to take things on. But I've also fallen into some traps, like many of us do. And so I've observed other people along the way. I've learned and grown from some other great people. So I wanted to talk to some of those people. I wanted to find out what's worked for them, what traps they've fallen into, how they've overcome them. And so probably about 2/3 of the book is based on what we call types, traps, and techniques. So 7 archetypes of the typical ways women show up in the workplace, and then the traps that can result from that. So if you're wanting to be everybody's best friend, it can be hard to have that leadership courage and make tough decisions, things like that. And on the opposite side, if you have a ton of guts and you're out there on the leading edge and you're just very, very bold, you might have some other traps that you fall into. And those are just two of the examples I can think of. But then it's, what do you do? What do you do to get past the traps? And what do you do to make it work? And make sure that you are leaving that legacy that you want to leave. And I think sometimes because we as women today appreciate so many choices, people have blazed trails for us that have enabled us to be working women while raising children, caring for aging parents, and having other activities in our lives. And that's wonderful. But I think sometimes we create a challenge for ourselves because instead of making purposeful choices, we're trying to do it all. And we're trying to do it all perfectly. And that's a trap right there. And so what I want to do in this book and through the 70 women that I interviewed and the stories that we tell, I want to inspire others who are going through this now, whether I'm talking to someone in their 20s or 30s or 60s or 70s. It's like the more things change, the more things stay the same. And so I want to help those women trying to do that somewhat impossible juggling act to figure out what is really most important to them. What's the legacy they care about the most? And how do they make choices that align with that and keep from falling into some of those traps? So I said about 2/3 of the book is devoted to that, the stories that the people I interviewed told me. And yes, we interviewed men too. They're very important in this whole juggling act as well. So that's about 2/3 of the book, and about 1/3 of the book is just the stories of my own challenges along the way and how I worked through it. So it's a story that I hope a lot of women can relate to, and it will be published by this summer. We're about halfway through it right now, so we're very excited about that. And one thing I'll just mention, because I brought up the men that are so important in our lives. One of the things that's come out, and there's been a lot of research done about this, but it's really funny how it comes out in these interviews, because you find that men are able to compartmentalize more. When they're in the work box and they're wearing their work hat, they're working. And when women are working, they're still thinking, okay, what am I going to make for dinner? What time do I have to pick up carpool? Who needs new shoes? What's happening with this, sports and activities in our lives? And I was speaking to a surgeon and he said, oh, you should talk to my wife. He said, when I'm in clinic and I'm not thinking about anything else. And he said, she's a doctor as well. And when she's in clinic, she can text me in between patients and say, don't forget, we've got to get Billy his cleats for baseball tonight. And he said, it's just remarkable. And I think women's brains tend to be firing on a lot of different cylinders simultaneously. And it's just one of those unique differences between women and men. But it's fascinating how it tends to play out as we play all these different roles in our busy lives these days.
Yeah, we need to celebrate that for sure. I think you've already answered one of the questions, is that can women really have it all? And what I'm gleaning from kind of the insight you've given is that we can, if one, you know how to define what having it all means, right? And that when you say, yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So being very purposeful and intentional on what joy looks like and what goodness looks like and what you want your life and your legacy to look like. So it sounds to me like that's the road that you're taking as well. So,
I was just going to say, I like to say you can have it all, just not at the same time.
and
I think that's important too, to recognize this too shall pass. You have a lot of different phases in your life. And right now might be the phase where you have toddlers and you have really intense family obligations.
Mhm.
And then you blink your eyes and you're like me, and they've grown up and flown the nest. And now I have plenty of time to work. So I like to think I still have a lot of good years ahead of me working, but it's hard to do it all at the same time. And it really is best if you can make choices about where to focus your efforts right now and just do the next thing.
Yeah, I think that says the same thing about people often ask, Moran, you have such great work-life balance. And I kind of chuckle to myself, almost like, the imposter syndrome, saying, not always. There are definitely some times in my life where my balance is way out of whack, but I work really hard to make sure that kind of it all evens out. Maybe not on a given day or even a given week, but over a period of time, I take a fresh look at, what do I need to readjust to make sure that I do stay in that good balance kind of place. So, well, I am super excited about the book coming out. Is there any inspiration around what the name of the book is going to be yet, or is that still to come?
Yes. Well, we've just named it and we're working on the graphics. So the book is titled The Rebalancing Act, and we're still tweaking the subtitle just a bit, but it's words of wisdom from working women for success or something like that. So like I said, still tweaking the subtitle, but The Rebalancing Act is the name of the book.
Well, I can't wait to read it. I can't wait to give it to my daughter, because I like what you said around being able to kind of share the stories of how to set your future up for the right expectations and success, etc. So after, what I'd love to do is reserve the right that when your book is out, you can come back to share with us, the final product, and kind of share with us what you've learned along the way as well. So
I would love that. Thank you so much.
well, thank you, Carol, for being here with us, and we look forward to your continued success. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Barbara Ann.
All right, take care.